Well, the apothecary is down the lane and to the right.
I beg your pardon. Oh, please forgive my impertinence. Charles Bingley at your service. In fact, I've left Netherfield for the estate for the winter. I was hoping you'd indulge my curiosity, which seems inordinately piqued by this fine town of yours.
If you're inclined to the curious, then this is certainly the right town for that propensity.
I've noticed a preponderance of, shall we say, fair and engaging young people.
Ah, yes, they do preponderate.
For example, those two girls.
Ah, definitely two of the liveliest girls in the village. That is Miss Kitty Bennet and her sister, Miss Lydia Bennet.
Bennet, eh? Interesting. How about that one there?
Ah, that is Miss Elizabeth Bennet.
Bennet again, what? Well, how about that one there?
Ah, yes, that is Mary. She, too, is...
Another Bennet?
I'm afraid so.
I don't suppose.
Oh, but you certainly should. Jane is most definitely a Bennet.
I'm almost afraid to ask.
Alas, it is true. That impressive specimen of femininity is also
a Bennet. I wonder that this town is called Meryton. It should seem it should be called Benetton. The whole town is teeming with women by that name.
I should certainly hope not. 5 daughters and a wife are quite enough for me.
I see, then you are...
Mr. Bennet at your service. I am husband to the impressive specimen, and father to Elizabeth, Mary, Kitty, Lydia, and of course, Jane. And you are?
Oh, forgive me. I'm visiting with my sister, Miss Caroline Bingley, and our good friend, Mr. Darcy, who will be staying in the Netherfield estate for the winter.
Then we shall be neighbours.
I'm very happy to hear that. I look forward to calling on you in the whole of the Bennet clan.
You will be very welcome, I'm sure. Oh, well, sir, you must excuse me. It seems I have the daunting task of rounding up all of the Bennet girls from wherever they may be.
Well, at least you know the whereabouts of 2 of your brood.
I'll let you keep an eye on them. I'm sure that they prefer it that way. Well, sir, until tomorrow, when I trust we will see you at our assembly dance.
I would be delighted to attend, as I'm sure would be the rest of my party.
Well, Bingley, I take it you've committed us to some sort of scintillating soiree.
How distasteful. First you drag us out here to the country, then you actually expect us to mingle with the natives. Really, brother?
I have no doubt we'll find it delightful. After all, dancing is considered one of the first refinements of a polished society.
Not to mention it being en vogue in some of the less polished societies of the world. Every savage can dance.
Oh, come, Darcy, you had better dance. I'd hate to see you standing about by yourself in some stupid manner.
Well, you certainly will not find me prancing about at some backwoods assembly. I detest such nonsense, unless I'm particularly acquainted with my partner, and should your sister be occupied, I would not...
I doubt that would be the case. I'd be hard-pressed to let some brute bloody my feet and ruin a good pair of party slippers.
Well, there you have it. There would not be another woman in the room whom it would not be a punishment to me to stand up with.
Balderdash! Why, upon my honor, I've never seen so many pleasant girls in my life. Several of them are uncommonly pretty.
Something tells me you will make claim to the only handsome girl at the dance.
I hope so. She's the most beautiful creature I ever beheld. But look, just behind you is one of her sisters, who is also very pretty, and I dare say very agreeable.
What do you mean? She is tolerable, but not handsome enough to tempt me. Feel free to make your acquaintance with her sister, but don't waste your time on me.
Honestly, Darcy, how long do you think a man in your position can evade the inevitable attachment?
My brother has a point.
Your brother and all the rest of England.
It is a truth universally acknowledged that a single man in possession of a good fortune must be in want of a wife.
And since, forsooth, it's universally acknowledged you're a single man in possession of a good fortune, you must find a partner for life. This is the way it's done. This is the way it is. If you don't have a missus, something will be amiss.
This is the way it works. This is the way it goes. God,
like it's decreed by fate.
if you're a single male,
You've got to get a mate. It is a sacrament.
and a divine decree.
If you're a single he, you've got to land a she.
I don't remember your being so bleak and so jaded.
Good, then I guess my naivete has finally faded.
What if you knew you could choose any woman on earth?
Find me just one who would not give a shite what I'm worth. If you're a man of pride, if you're a man of sense, if you don't take a bride, people will take offense. No matter what you've got,
No matter your career,
if you don't tie the knot, people will think it queer.
When you're a man of means,
someone of consequence.
you must make a worthy match.
For nothing less makes sense.
Choose someone of your stock, one of your breed.
Of course! Why would I take a bride when I could just buy a horse?
I don't remember your being so grim and depressing.
Go on, Bingley, be self-deluding. I give you my blessing.
Darcy, whatever made you so sour on love and romance?
Women who just want what's jingling inside of my pants. So now that the plan is laid, now that the truth's revealed, man doesn't stand a chance. Though your fate is sealed. But if you decline to wait, you will be well advised. Learning to love to be forever ostracized.
Oh, Mr. Bennet, tell me quickly about our new neighbor, Mr. Bingley.
He seems like a fine young man.
I hear he has a large fortune, 4,000 or 5,000 a year.
And
Is he
is he?
married or single?
Oh, single, my dear, to be sure.
What a fine thing for our girls.
How so? How can it affect them?
Oh, how can you be so tiresome? Surely you know I'm thinking of him marrying one of them.
Was that his design in settling here?
Design nonsense. But it is very likely that he will fall in love with one of them.
Precisely. Which finally proves the cleverness of your design in having 5 daughters to begin with, and in the perfect order.
Yes, perfect indeed. First came Jane,
Then came Elizabeth,
followed by Mary
Kitty.
and Lydia.
Are we not blessed?
Are they not the best
5 daughters. You might say we should have stopped at 2, then had sons. I would agree with you.
Oh, but he just, they're clearly the best
5 daughters.
5 pairs of dainty hands,
Spending to beat the band.
5 minds to demonstrate,
How to manipulate.
5 hearts to warm you so.
5 mouths to tell you.
No!
Why not 1 son in breeches? 5 is a lot of
Mr. Bennet, what I'd give to have 5 sons-in-law.
Just send the bill straight to the proud papa.
No, just think, 5 weddings.
Thinking, I'm dreading 5 daughters.
When they were very young, who could provide the fun?
Sons of their childhood play ring in my ear today.
But somehow they become young ladies
hearty consent for his marrying whichever of my 5 daughters he chooses. Although I must put in a good word for my little Lizzie.
I desire you do no such thing. Why, Lizzie is no better than the rest of them. I'm sure she's not as handsome as Jane, nor as lively as Lydia. But you are always giving her the preference.
My dear, that is because the others have none of them much to recommend them. They are all silly and ignorant, like other girls. Granted, Jane is pretty enough, but she does nothing but daydream. Mary will make us all go deaf. And Kitty and Lydia are 2 quite silly girls who make fair game of stalking every militia regiment that comes to town.
In all fairness, Father, we only stock those ranks of lieutenant or greater.
And girl after my own heart. So come on, Mr. Bennet. Is Mr. Bingley coming to the dance?
Why, he really didn't say much. I suspect he may skip the whole event altogether.
You take it like in vexing me. You have no compassion for my poor nerves.
Oh, my dear, you are mistaken. I have high respect for your nerves. They are my old friends. I have heard you speak of them with compassion these 20 years at least. It is a shame Mr. Bingley can't meet them himself.
Who cares who Mr. Bingley meets? If it's not going to be one of our girls, I'm tired of Mr. Bingley.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Then I suppose you won't want to hear that he most definitely assured me that he will be at the assembly dance.
As taken as everyone else with the town's newest pastime.
A pastime, and what might that be?
Why, noting the comings and goings of the Netherfield party.
Well, I'm told Mr. Bingley seems pleasant enough. What little I know of his friends, at least one friend in particular, does not excite me.
Nor I. And I possibly have more knowledge of Mr. Darcy than anyone else in this room.
And how is that, Mr. Wickham?
Well, it is not a pretty story. You see, his father, Mr. Darcy Sr., was my godfather. And his father was a fine man, a genuine, generous, and kind man. He meant to provide for me, and thought my welfare was most vital. But his offspring could not bother with the final wishes of his father. So shamelessly he swindled me of all to which I was entitled. It was so disturbing, degrading, being a burden he took pleasure in evading. My torment is of his creating, and there is nothing in this world that I can do. It was so appalling, debasing, stealing the future I have no way of replacing.
He deserves a public disgracing.
But to his father's memory I must be true. Yes, it is shocking, and yet I do take such comfort in this sympathy from you.
Mr. Darcy, I see you've already met one of the pillars of our community, Mrs. Bennett.
Apparently so.
Then you'll have no doubt believing that this is her beautiful daughter, Elizabeth. Ah, minuet. You cannot refuse to dance. There's so much beauty is before you.
Indeed, sir, I have not the least intention of dancing. I entreat you not to suppose I moved this way in order to beg for a partner.
Miss Elizabeth, I think nothing of the kind. It would in fact honor me to have you at my side for this dance.
Mr. Darcy, you are all politeness, but you deserve a partner who is not merely tolerable, but handsome enough to tempt you. Feel free to make other acquaintances. Don't waste your time on me.
Miss Elizabeth, may I have this dance?
By all means, Mr. Wickham.
All these damsels, looking so fine.
One word that comes to mind is bovine.
Balls are such fun!
With the right one. This night we're never ending.
Oh, we regret attending. I can guess the subject of your reverie.
I should imagine not.
You are contemplating the insipidity and yet the noise, the nothingness and yet the self-importance of all these people. What would I give to hear your strictures on them?
Your conjecture is totally wrong, I assure you. My mind was more agreeably engaged. I have been contemplating on the very great pleasure which a pair of fine eyes in the face of a pretty woman can bestow.
And to whom might these fine eyes belong?
Miss Elizabeth Bennet.
Miss Elizabeth Bennet. Why, I'm all astonishment. How long has she been such a favourite, and pray when am I to wish you joy?
That is exactly the question I expected you to ask. A woman's imagination is very rapid. It moves from admiration to love, from love to matrimony in a moment.
Nay, if you're so serious about it, I shall consider the matter as absolutely settled. You will have a charming mother-in-law, who will always keep you close company at your Pemberley estate.
Shall we?
Was it? No, dear. I'm afraid it wasn't. That was just a liveryman coming for the tray.
My word, I believe my daughters have been traded for 2 jack-in-the-boxes.
Well, I suppose it was too much to expect. How can you say such a thing? Why, Mr. Bingley was enthralled by you. How could he have been anything else?
Mr. Bingley again. My word, indeed, I believe that man spends more time in my own home than I do myself.
You, my sweet Lizzie, are blinded by sisterly love. Me blind? Not at all. But I would have to believe Charles Bingley were blind if he were not overwhelmed by the beauty at his side.
Please.
And your kindness and your open heart.
And what about you, Lizzie? I can hardly believe you're not aware Mr. Darcy could not take his eyes off of you during the whole assembly.
Why, it is a footman!
Girls, this was just delivered for our dear Jane. by his beloved sister. His absence is a bothersome bit of news.
We must call the livery and request a carriage.
No, no. You must go on horseback, because it looks as though it will rain, and then you will have to stay all night.
That would be a good scheme if you are sure they would not offer to send her home in their carriage.
No, the gentlemen will have Mr. Bingley's chaise with them in Meryton.
But, Mother, I'd much rather go on the coach.
Your father cannot spare the horses. They are wanted on the farm, are they not, Mr. Bennet?
In truth, Jane, the horses are wanted at the farm much oftener than I can get them.
Then that decides it. And by the looks of it, the skies will open up by mid-afternoon. We're in for a terrible storm. And you shall be successfully ensconced at Netherfield till the morrow. Your father and I have raised you with high scruples. We taught you to never cause a raised eyebrow. In lessons of every kind, you've been fine pupils. And I have been oh so proud of you till now. For you can read a little book, dance a little twirl, paint a little china doll with silken curls. None of that is ever going to get you girls a husband. And you can knit a little muff, sketch a little cat, sing your itty bitty ditty in D flat. None of it is ever going to get you that a husband. Oh, do not be deluded that accomplishment gave me what I got. I can still hear my mama's admonishments, connive, contrive, and plot. So in your little play, parley your francais, turn your poor mama into a bust of clay. If you can do all that while you stalk your prey. Very good, Mary. Very good, Mary. Clever women know that mere passivity kills connubial dreams. Those who rate a maid need the proclivity for ploys and plans and schemes. So pen your little play, practice portraiture, and design a darling piece of furniture in which you will wither when you can't procure. And if you must crochet a cap, trill your little trills, give your little petticoat Parisian frills. Just remember when you need to pay those bills.
Let me guess.
And if you stay a spinster, all that culture brings will have been or not. But you'll have time for all those silly worthwhile things once your catch is caught. So use your pretty heads, stretch your pretty minds. Work with me, my dears, we're running out of time. Quick, decisive actions which will lead to listen to me, please. This is my expertise. Now you've got to plot your course. Grab those reins, girl, ride that horse. Ladies, give her room. She's off to snag a groom. A husband. Yeah.
So, my dear, if your daughter should have a dangerous illness, if she should die, I'm sure it will give you comfort to know that it was all in pursuit of Mr. Bingley.
Oh,
And under your orders.
people do not die of colds, but they do die of poverty. Oh, girls, come quickly! It is from Jane.
Oh, it should say.
And she has a violent cold. Listen, she says, my dear friends would not dream of my coming home until I am better. She's as good as engaged.
Perhaps, if she lives.
Nonsense!
I wish to avoid the walk. The distance is nothing. I'll leave at once.
So go and write your little scene, recite your little verse, stitch a piece of netting on your handmade purse, all the while forgetting what you shouldn't at first, a husband. And you can throw a little putt, perform a pirouette, tear yourselves into the bed and string quintet. None of it means beans unless it helps you get. We know! Hush and heed and you'll be married, and you'll thank me when I'm married. Let no prospect wriggle by. Every man might be the last. Oh Lord, I've got 5 Venuses, all in need of husbands.
Dear Miss Elizabeth, how kind of you to come all this way to attend your sister. But I did not hear your carriage when it arrived.
That is because I walked. The horses were needed on the farm. Besides, it is only 3 miles.
3 miles. In the mud and muck. How positively rustic.
Come, Caroline. Miss Elizabeth does not seem to be put out by the adventure at all. In fact, the exercise seems to have had an enhancing effect.
You're so right, Darcy. Why, Miss Elizabeth, there is a brilliance about you.
Your compliment has temporarily lifted my spirits, but I must not let your kind words deter me from my mission here. How is my poor Jane?
I'm happy to report that her fever is subsiding, though the doctor insists she stay in her bed for at least another night, and I agree, although I know she will delight in seeing you. But she is asleep at the moment, so please join us instead, Miss Elizabeth.
Thank you, Mr. Bingley, but in the few spare moments I dare to take for myself, I look forward to perusing your library.
You look forward to reading instead of playing cards? That is rather singular.
Miss Eliza Bennet despises cards. She's a great reader and has no pleasure in anything else.
I deserve neither such praise nor such censure. I'm not a great reader, and I take pleasure in many things.
Miss Eliza, let me persuade you to follow my example and take a turn about the room. I assure you it's very refreshing after sitting so long in one attitude. Would you care to join us, Mr. Darcy?
Wouldn't that defeat the purpose?
Whatever would you suppose he means by that, Miss Eliza?
I would imagine he means to be severe on us, and our surest way of disappointing him would be to ask nothing about it.
I have not the smallest objection in explaining. I can see but 2 motives for your actions. Either you are in each other's confidence and have secret affairs to discuss, or you are conscious that your figures appear to their best advantage in walking. If your motive is the first, I shall be completely in your way, and if the second, well, I could admire you much better from here.
Oh, shocking! I never heard anything so abominable. What shall we do to punish him for such a speech?
I don't think we can.
Why is that?
Because punishment inflicts shame, and Mr. Darcy is too prideful a man to have avowed that emotion. In fact, I deem Mr. Darcy to be perfect, entirely without defect.
I am perfectly relieved to hear that. Now, if I may be allowed, I shall finish the task at hand.
Perfection runs in the Darcy family. Why, his sister Georgiana is the essence of perfection. I never met with anybody who delighted me so much. Such a countenance, such manners, and so extremely accomplished for her age. Why, her performance on the pianoforte is exquisite.
I find it amazing how women find the patience to be as accomplished as they all are. I have never been introduced to a woman for the first time without being informed that she was very accomplished.
On the other hand, I cannot boast of knowing more than half a dozen in my acquaintance who are really accomplished.
Nor I am sure.
Then you must comprehend a great deal of your idea of an accomplished woman.
Yes, certainly. No one can really be esteemed accomplished who does not have a thorough knowledge of music, drawing, dancing, and the modern languages. She must possess a certain something in her air, her manner of walking, the tone of her voice, her dress and expression. expressions.
All this she must possess, and to this she must yet add something more substantial, in the improvement of her mind through extensive reading.
I no longer wonder at you and Mr. Darcy knowing only 6 accomplished women. I rather wonder now at your knowing any at all. With that, I will take my leave and attend to my sister.
Let me show you the way.
You are most generous with your time and your home, Mr. Bingley.
Why must she be scampering about the country? Because her sister had a cold, really. She looked almost wild. Surely you saw her petticoat, 6 inches deep in mud. She is the embodiment of pride and impertinence. She has no conversation, no style, no taste, no beauty. In short, she has nothing to recommend her. But being an excellent walker, I fear this adventure has rather affected your admiration of her fine eyes.
Not at all. It was my observation that they were brightened by the exercise. In fact, I think I'll go for some fresh air myself.
Jane, darling! How are you feeling?
I'm fine, truly I am.
Oh, dear Jane.
Lizzie, I'm so miserable.
Miserable? Why, Miss Jane, aren't these accommodations to your liking? I've ordered the freshest flowers, the softest blankets, the most potent poultices to accelerate your healing. Pray, tell me what else I can do to revive you.
Why, nothing at all. I'm afraid I've left you with the wrong impression. It's just that, well, I've imposed on your hospitality long enough. You have so graciously opened your home to us. My only regret is that I've not been a more lively guest.
Your illness robbed me, I mean, all of us here at Netherfield, of your much anticipated companionship. However, there is one way in which you can make it up to me.
Oh, just tell me and I will do your bidding.
Should you grant me another opportunity to play host, you'll make me the happiest man in the world.
You flatter me, Mr. Bingley. But if that is your request, you have my word, then I'm at your beck and call.
Splendid! Now, what device can I use to show off Netherfield to its best advantage for your next visit? I have it! I shall host a ball!
Oh, wonderful!
It will have to be well again, or else the whole scheme is for naught. I'll give you but a fortnight to recuperate. Will that do?
Well, then I have no choice but to do so. Otherwise my sisters, and all of Meryton for that matter, shall blame me for detaining them from such merriment.
See, already your spirits are revived. Well, I'll leave you in your sister's more capable hands. I look around and I see a changing world. A world that's brimming with light for a special girl. And I know it's too soon for a real love to start. I know it's too soon to just trust my heart. But where do we go from here? When will it all be clear? There's nowhere to be but near this endearing girl.
Around I see a changing world. World brimming with joy for a simple girl. And I know it's too soon for a real love to start. Sometimes there's reason to trust your heart.
Where do we go from here? There's nowhere to be but near this endearing girl.
There they are, those eyes that pierce my soul, taunting me that without her I'm not whole. There are
heard me speaking of Mr. Collins, you know, the gentleman who, when I am dead, may turn you all out of this house as soon as he pleases.
Pray do not mention that odious man's name. I cannot bear to hear it. The cruelty of your ancestors, Mr. Bennet, settling this estate away from a family of 5 daughters, and in favor of a man who nobody cares a whit about. I think it very impertinent of him to write to you at all, and very hypocritical, or hate such false friends.
Well, that is one advantage of his appearance. You may now make your feelings known to him in person.
Oh, don't think that I won't. Oh, dear me, he wouldn't happen to be.
William Collins.
The very...
At your service, madam.
Oh, my dear sir.
Madam, please do not feel the need to elaborate.
Oh, no, but I must. But not in the same manner, of course.
That is a relief, for I too wish to relieve some of your concerns regarding this very tempestuous issue.
You allude, perhaps, to the entail of this estate?
Madam, I do indeed. You see, the disagreement between Mr. Bennet and my late honored father has always given me much uneasiness, and I frequently wish to heal the breach.
Well, that's a step in the right direction.
Indubitably, and now, having been so fortunate as to be patronized by Lady Catherine de Bourgh, whose bounty and beneficence have made me rector of the valuable parish of Huntsford in Kent, where I shall endeavour to do my best to demean myself with grateful respect for her ladyship.
I hope you won't have to demean yourself in a manner too unfavorably.
Now, Mr. Bennet, pray continue, Mr. Collins.
In fact, Lady Catherine has even condescended to advise me to marry as soon as I could, provided I choose with discretion. I flatter myself that my current overtures of goodwill are highly commendable, and that my being next in the entail of Longbourn will be kindly overlooked on your side and not lead you to reject the offered olive branch.
An olive branch?
But, yes, metaphorically speaking, of course.
Then what form would this olive branch take?
I and that olive branch.
I don't understand.
You see, Mrs. Bennet, I'm very sensible of the hardships of my fair cousins. An easy task, as I've heard much of their beauty. And now, having witnessed it for myself, I can attest to the fact that their fame has fallen short of the truth.
That's all very nice, Mr. Collins, but back to the olive branch.
Of course. Dare I presume that perhaps I shall somehow play a hand in one daughter's future happiness?
Automatically put, Mr. Collins, but I'm afraid, in Jane's regard, it is all for naught, for she is one who shall be leaving our little nest any day now.
I beg your pardon?
By that I mean to say, our dear sweet Jane is practically engaged. As for her younger sisters, I know of no prepossession, so we shall see.
At your behest, madam. I shall temper my exuberance for the time being and use this visit to show my steadfast resolve toward that possibility.
You just do that, Mr. Collins, and in the interim, I shall take this opportunity to discuss my daughter's name and the visit. Oh, I take it went well.
Oh, everything was wonderful. He was so caring, so attentive, so eager to have me stay.
And that could have been arranged.
Eventually we would have had to come home, Mother. Somebody would have missed us.
Oh, but Mother, here's the best news of all. Mr. Bingley is to throw a ball.
At Netherfield, a fortnight hence.
Oh, a ball! How wonderful! It never did! Did you say a fortnight hence? Why, that's no time at all in which to get ready. Come, girls, we must tend to your attire. We must plan your futures.
Your sister Jane seems to have captivated our host. How could he but admire her? Jane is the essence of all things sweet and worthy. That he will note above all else.
True. Bingley undoubtedly likes your sister.
But he may never do more than like her if she does not help him on. Remember, Eliza, he does not know Jane's sweet, shy disposition as you do.
But if a woman is partial to a man and does not endeavour to conceal it, then he must find it out.
Perhaps he must if he sees enough of her. But Bingley and Jane have only been together a few hours, and only at large parties, so she must make the most of moments in which she commands his attention. When she is secure of him, there will be time for falling in love.
Your plan is a good one if she were intent on getting a rich husband. But Jane is not acting by design. She's known him only a fortnight, not enough time to understand his character.
If she married him tomorrow, she would have just as good of a chance of happiness as if she'd studied his character a whole 12 months. Happiness in marriage is entirely a matter of chance. In truth, it is better to know as little as possible of the defects of the person with whom you are to spend the rest of your life.
You make me laugh, Charlotte. You know you would never act in this way yourself.
Do not be so sure, dear Eliza. When I was a wee little lady of 3, my servants were constantly doting on me, picking my dresses and combing my dresses and showering even adulation in my imagination. By 9, it was time I started planning ahead for that glorious day I'd be happily wed to the one who would tenderly love me and render me rich beyond all estimation in my imagination. Then one dark day as my girlhood flew past, I got a dire message from my looking glass, warning my prospects just might be obscured by my uncanny likeness to Richard III. So I rolled up my sleeves and I took a deep breath, and I promptly put all my delusions to death. As it rang in my ears, beggars cannot be choosers. You might be my winner, you might think a loser. So dear Lizzie, if with your assets I'd be blessed, I might not be eager to settle for less. But since my fairy tale ending's not currently pending, oh my clock's tick-tocking, Prince Charming's not knocking. In short, it might be rather chancy to await a mate who suits my fancy. Sure, you can hold up for a true man, whereas I'll be lucky if he's human. I think thinkings and great expectations, they only lead to great frustrations. And if you think you're sensing desperation, which will end in bitter resignation, then be sure it's your
Oh, you seem to have admirers. Ah, yes, my exuberant cousin, Mr. Collins. Charlotte, dear, please do me a favour and keep the gentleman occupied while I make my getaway.
Of course. Mr. Collins.
It certainly is a beautiful night for a ball.
Yes. Right, so. Your dress,
Yes.
it is quite fetching.
Fetching. Oh, well, thank you. Yours too.
It's fetching.
That's not what I meant to say.
You did not mean to comment on my attire.
Yes, just not in that fashion.
I see.
I don't think you do, for I don't believe that I've made myself clear.
Haven't you?
Netherfield's ballroom is one of the best in all the county.
In that regard, your knowledge outstrips my own.
It is your turn to say something now, Mr. Darcy. I've talked about the dance. You ought to make some kind of remark on the number of couples or some such.
We've already tried 2 or 3 subjects with no success. What we're to talk of next, I cannot imagine. Miss Elizabeth, Rest assured, whatever you wish me to say, I shall say it. Yes, there are a good many couples here tonight.
Very well, that reply will do for the present, but now we may be silent.
Now, after I've just become used to the idea of talking. Another thing, do you make it a point to talk by rules?
Sometimes. One must speak a little, you know. It would look odd for us to be entirely silent for half an hour together. And yet for some, conversation ought to be so arranged as to trouble them to say as little as possible.
Are you consulting your own feelings in the present case, or do you imagine that you're gratifying mine?
Both. For I've seen a similarity in the turn of our minds. Unsocial, taciturn, and unwilling to speak unless we can say something that will amaze the whole room.
Indeed. Well, I'll take your word for it.
Of course, we do have some glaring differences.
And what do you presume these to be?
I can open my heart to one less fortunate, like Mr. Wickham, while you cannot.
Mr. Wickham was blessed with such happy manners as may ensure his making friends. Whether he may be equally capable of retaining them is less certain.
He's been so unlucky as to lose your friendship, and in a manner from which he is likely to suffer for the rest of his life. Why have you allowed yourself to be so blinded by prejudice?
Wouldn't it be better to reserve your opinion until you knew the particulars of a particular case?
I'm under the impression that I may know all of that.
If this were truly the case, Miss Elizabeth, then another one of your assumptions, our likeness, must indeed be the true flight of fancy. I shall take my leave now, so as not to keep you from the other guests who may provide more amiable company.
Mr. Darcy.
So, Miss Eliza, I hear you're quite delighted with George Wickham. But let me warn you, as for Mr. Darcy's using him ill, it was quite the contrary. I do not know the particulars, only that it was George Wickham who mistreated Mr. Darcy. I pity you, Miss Eliza, for this discovery of your favourite's guilt.
You are much mistaken if you expect to influence me by such a paltry attack as this. I see nothing in it but your own willful ignorance and the malice of Mr. Darcy.
Excuse me, I meant no harm. Then again, I'm sure your misinterpretation was due to other more important things currently on your mind.
Please make us stop.
I'll do what I can, Eliza, but Mary's virtuosity is, to the rest of our distress, one of the more strident features. That will do, my child. You have delighted us long enough. It is time to let the other young ladies make exhibitions of themselves.
He isn't wrong, my dear. Simply is wrong. Then again, he's such a charming young man. So wealthy. It was inevitable. Just think of what a comfort it will be to have them here, so near to me in Netherfield. Those draperies will have to go. And his sister is so fond of our Jane. Why, the thing is peas. I wouldn't be at all surprised if they are engaged by the fall. Moreover, Jane's marrying so greatly will be such a good thing for her younger sisters, for it will throw them into the path of other rich men.
Oh, my dear, finding a suitor should not be
Lexie, you've been let go these last few days. You cannot go and hide from Mr. Collins forever.
Oh, can't I? No. The man is so obnoxious. Mother can't be serious in assuming I will allow him to woo me. They'll have to catch me first.
Well, we'll have to face him sooner rather than later, since the Lucases will be here any moment for dinner. Honey, cross purposes of love.
I'm so sorry, Jane. Not a word from Mr. Bingley?
No. Not since Netherfield's ball. I just can't imagine what can't you. Whatever do you mean?
Nothing, dear. Nothing at all. But isn't it so obvious that he is in love with you?
Oh, Lizzie, do you really think so?
Mr. Collins! There you are, my dear.
Yes, it seems you have found me.
Madam, may I hope for a private audience with Miss Eliza?
I'm sure Lizzie will have no objection. Come along, Jane.
Oh, dear ma'am, I beg you, please do not go. Mr. Collins can have nothing to say to me that anybody else need not hear. In fact, I was just leaving myself.
No, nonsense, Lizzie. I insist that you stay and listen to Mr. Collins.
Good evening, Miss Elizabeth. Your modesty only adds to your other perfections. You would have been less amiable in my eyes had there not been this little unwillingness. But let me assure you, I have your mother's permission for this address. You can hardly doubt my purpose.
You're too hasty, sir. I am perfectly sensible to the honor of your proposal, but it is impossible for me to do otherwise than to decline it.
I acknowledge that it is usual for a young lady to refuse the addresses of men whom she secretly means to accept when first she applies for her favors, and that sometimes that refusal is repeated a second or even a third time. I am therefore by no means discouraged by what you have just said, and shall hope to lead you to the altar ere long.
Upon my word, sir, I am perfectly serious in my refusal. You could not make me happy, and I'm convinced I am the last woman in the world who could make you so. In making me the offer, you must have satisfied the delicacy of your feelings with regard to my family, and may take possession of Longbourn whenever it falls, without any self-reproach.
You are uniformly charming. I am persuaded that when sanctioned by both your excellent parents, my proposal will be accepted.
No, why, dear Mr. Collins, let me be the first to congratulate you on your
Thank you,
betrothal.
Mrs. Bennet.
On the wedding. However, what do you mean, however?
Well, to be quite frank, Miss Elizabeth has yet to accept the proposal.
She has yet to.
Indeed. However, I put this down to her wanting to increase my love by suspense, according to the usual practice of elegant women.
Suspense, Lexie, I should say not. Oh, she is a very headstrong, foolish girl who does not know her own interests. I shall make her know them.
Pardon me, madam, did you say headstrong
Ah, yes.
and foolish? If this is the case, I know not whether Miss Elizabeth would be a very desirable wife for a man in my situation.
Oh, no. Lizzie is only headstrong in matters such as these. In everything else, she is as good-natured a girl as ever lived. I will go to Mr. Bennet directly, and we will very soon settle it with her, I am sure. Mr. Bennet, you are wanted immediately. We are in such an uproar. Lizzie says she refuses Mr. Collins, and if you do not make haste, he will change his mind and he will not have her.
Eliza, is what your mother's saying the truth?
I'm afraid so, Father.
Very well. We now come to the point. Your mother insists upon your accepting. Is that not so, Mrs. Bennet?
Yes, or I shall never see her again.
An unhappy alternative is before you, Elizabeth. Your mother will never speak to you again if you do not marry Mr. Collins. And I will never speak to you again if you do.
Lord William, Lady Lucas, and dear Charlotte. Mr. Collins, I see you've taken it upon yourself to welcome our guests.
Oh, Mr. Collins has done more than just welcome us.
Is that so?
Indeed, he has asked our Charlotte for her hand in marriage.
I beg your pardon.
And to my joy, Charlotte has readily, in fact, immediately accepted. This kind lady felt no inclination to trifle with my happiness, and I've entreated her to name the date that will make me the happiest of men.
I beg your pardon. Only this morning, Mr. Collins wanted to marry Lizzie, and now Charlotte. Moss has no time to grow under your feet, does it, Mr. Collins? Your change of heart heart does nothing for my appetite nor my manners. This is not a good day. Good day.
Are you really sure this is what you want, Charlotte?
Elizabeth, I can ill afford to have romantic aspirations when it comes to marriage. Mr. Collins may not be perfect, but still, I am convinced that my chance of happiness with him is as fair as most people can boast upon entering the marriage state.
Well, Charlotte, I hope you find the contentment you seek.
Then you'll come visit us in Hertfordshire.
As soon as you're settled, I promise.
Jane! Dear, what is it? A note from Caroline. The entire party has left Netherfield. By this time they are on their way to London without any intention of ever coming back again.
Oh, dear me. Jane, read it out loud.
I do not pretend to regret anything I shall leave behind to Meryton, save for your society, my dearest friend.
But we will hope at some future period to enjoy many returns of the delightful intercourse we have known, and in the meanwhile may lessen the pain of separation by a frequent and unreserved correspondence. I depend on you for that.
She's giving you permission to write her with no guarantee of an answer back.
But even if that is the case, her absence does not prevent Mr. Bingley from being here.
Dear me, what shall we do? Right, continue, Jane.
When my brother left Netherfield, he imagined that the business which took him to London might be concluded in a few days, but it now appears otherwise, and I'm convinced Charles will be in no hurry to leave London. Many of our acquaintances are already there for the winter. I sincerely hope your Christmas in Meryton may abound in the gaieties of the season, and that your beaux will be so numerous as to prevent your feeling the loss of the one whom we shall deprive you.
It is evident by this that he will not be back this winter.
It is only evident that Miss Bingley does not mean he should.
How can you talk so? It must be his own doing. He is his own master. There is more. Here is the part which particularly hurts me.
Mr. Darcy is impatient to see his sister, and to confess the truth, so is the rest of our party. I really do not think Georgiana Darcy has her equal for beauty, elegance, and accomplishments. And the affection she inspires in myself is heightened into something still more interesting from the hope I dare to entertain of her being here after my sister. I do not know whether I ever mentioned to you my feelings on the subject, and I trust you will not esteem them unreasonable. My brother admires her greatly already, and will be seeing her on most intimate footing. Her relations all wish the connection as much as his own. I think I am being objective when I call Charles most capable of engaging any woman's heart. With all these circumstances to favour an attachment and nothing to prevent it, am I wrong, my dearest Jane, in indulging the hope of an event which will secure the happiness of so many?
Is it not clear enough? Does it not expressly declare that Caroline neither expects nor wishes me to be her sister? That she is perfectly convinced of her brother's indifference? And that if she is to suspect the nature of my feelings, she means most kindly to put me on my guard?
I see it differently. Miss Bingley sees that her brother is in love with you and wants him to marry Miss Darcy. She follows him to town in the hope of keeping him there, and then persuades you that he does not care about you. Indeed, Jane, no one who has seen you together can doubt his affections for you. Not even Caroline Bingley. The truth is, we are not rich enough or grand enough for them, which is why she wants Miss Darcy for her brother.
But dear Eliza, even if you're right, how can I accept a man whose sister wishes him to marry elsewhere?
That you must decide for yourself. And if you find that the misery of disobliging a sister is more than equivalent to the happiness of being his wife, then I advise you by all means to refuse him.
How can you talk so? Even if she did not like me, I could not refuse him. But if he never returns, my choice will never be required. 1,000 things may happen in 6 months.
At least 1,000. And our poor Jane will be destitute. Oh, that awful sister, that odious friend Mr. Darcy. First, Lizzie refusing Mr. Collins' hand, and now this.
Allow me to welcome you to my humble abode. Though I imagine it would seem a paradise to any woman seeking a home of her own. What with its pleasant entrance, its generously proportioned rooms, and its most comfortable furnishings.
Yes, I see you.
And my garden! Are not my ranunculus ravishing? I cultivated it myself. My dear wife says none in Meryton smell sweeter.
Yes, I'm no doubt their fragrance is delightful.
What Mr. Collins is trying to say, Lizzie, is that you will always be a welcome guest in our home.
Yes, yes, my blushing bride is quite right. We have such empathy for those less fortunate.
Really, Mr. Collins? Lizzie, you must be somewhat thirsty from your journey. Would you care for some refreshment?
Why, yes, Charlotte, thank you. I am a bit parched.
Gosh, my, that will never do. Why, the spring water here in Hunsford is second to none. Second to none, I tell you. Why, my dear Charlotte's commented on numerous occasions of its superiority to any of that in Meryton.
Mr. Collins, I am quite certain that Elizabeth might conclude that for herself, if you would be kind enough to allow her the opportunity.
Yes, excuse me, dear lady.
Oh, it is so good to have you here with me, Eliza. I do miss you so. And our sweet Jane, how is she?
Not too well, I'm afraid. The Bingleys' unexpected departure was quite a blow.
What a shame. Her true nature kept her feelings from being known.
And again, if he can be so blind, or so suddenly turned by others from being violently in love to being apathetically indifferent, then he does not deserve her.
Violently in love.
Here we are, refreshing libation in hand. Is it not all I said it would be? A most agreeable tonic. Much like the agreeable tonic marriage has been for me. And Mrs. Collins.
It does have its benefits. Yes.
She gives the menu to the cook.
While in the den, he reads his book.
I take my stroll beside the brook.
And there you tarry.
On one another we depend.
With one another's bosom friend.
We spend each second we can spend
Just being
married.
He writes his speech.
She works her loom.
He starts to preach.
She leaves the room.
At times he bitch.
Gets rough,
Or gloomy.
but not very. When you have merged with your true mate
You share one future.
and one fate,
That nevermore may separate. Now that you're
married. Shall we? Miss Elizabeth, you didn't know I was such a fine dancer, did you? Lady Catherine taught me everything I know. Watch your step, wifey. I take a sip. This little drink. You might think I'd rather pick a monastery, but surely at you comprehend the deep romance extraordinary. When you wake up one day to find you are two bodies with one mind, the greater reason for being married.
The affability of your union is certainly admirable.
The very words used by my patroness, Lady Catherine de Bourgh, who, as you know, is the epitome of affability and condescension. Why, we dine at Rosings twice weekly. Speaking of which, my cousin, you are already honored by an invitation to dine there this very evening. It is the greatest of favors, have no doubt about it.
I will take your word for it, Cousin Collins.
Indubitably. Lady Catherine is the sort of woman one cannot regard with too much deference. And do not worry about your attire As elegant as she is, she will not think less of you for it. She likes to have the distinction of rank maintained.
Of your patroness, I'd expect nothing less.
Lady Catherine, Mrs. Collins, and may I present Miss Elizabeth Bennet.
The Collinses. My daughter Anne is nursing a cold, poor girl, and cannot join us. However, please do the honor of introducing Miss Elizabeth to my nephews, Mr. Fitzwilliam and Mr. Darcy.
I have already had the honor, the pleasure of Miss Bennet's acquaintance.
Indeed.
Why, yes, while I was ensconced with my friends the Bingleys at Meryton.
Longbourn, my home, is adjacent to Netherfield, where your nephew took refuge from the local savages.
Oh, well, Mr. Bingley, for one, seems to recall those local savages quite fondly for the most part. He even commented on their proficiency in all the latest dances.
What is it you are saying, Fitzwilliam? What are you telling Miss Bennet? Let me hear it.
We're discussing music, madam. Music.
Oh, then pray speak aloud. It is of all subjects my delight. There are few people in England who have more true enjoyment of music than myself, or a better natural taste. If I had ever learned, I would have been a great proficient, as would have my daughter Anne, if her health had allowed her to apply. But for me, destiny had other plans. When a woman of my merit has a calling, she must share it, though it means great sacrifice. Thus, despite my vast potential of achievements exponential, now I live to give advice. There's a special kind of person whose whole life is poetry, but who, unlike Keats or Shelley, need not flaunt it but little. Yet her pretty wisdom could go humorously, you see. That would be me. If to science I'd been called Sir Isaac Newton, I'd have enthralled with the theorems. I'd have hypothesized. Or if I tried philosophy, Socrates' ghost would have haunted me to let him be there whene'er I philosophized.
There's a special kind of person who inspires harmony.
Paganini, Pellegrini would have decomposed for me. Wagner would have killed for me to his Matilda me. That would be me. If I'd had the end to grapple with, that ceiling of that chapel, or the Renaissance, I would have reigned. Or that book, The Age of Reason, that is currently in season by what's his name, I could have writ with no pain.
There's a special kind of person who will not be pigeonholed.
Whose magnificent endowments will be crested to a mold, whose the maestro production is just the perfect key. Let you see.
That would be me.
Who will guide you and chide you and bring you and steer you and grow you and show you the way that I know you to be? How true! Do you also play and sing, Miss Bennet?
A little.
Then you shall honor us now with whatever ditty you see fit.
You mean to frighten me, Mr. Darcy, by coming so close to hear me? But I will not be alarmed. There is a stubbornness about me that never can be frightened at the will of others. My courage always rises with every attempt to intimidate me.
Miss Elizabeth, you certainly could not really believe me to entertain any design of alarming you. And I've had the pleasure of your acquaintance long enough to know that you take great pleasure in occasionally professing opinions which are in fact not your own.
I am particularly unlucky in meeting with a person so well able to expose my real character, and in a part of the world where I hoped to pass myself off with some degree of credit. It is provoking me to retaliate, and what might come out may shock your relations to hear.
I am not not afraid of you?
Oh, I can vouch for the fact that Darcy is in fact afraid of no one. Why, just last month he was commenting on having lately saved his friend Bingley from the clutches of a mother with her cap set on snaring him in a most imprudent marriage.
Really? Miss Bennet should practice more. She has a very good notion of fingering, but her taste is not equal to my Anne's. She would have been a delightful performer if her health had permitted her to learn. Since Mrs. Collins has no instrument, you are welcome to come to Rosings every day and play on the pianoforte.
Thank you.
In the housekeeper's room. In that part of the house, nobody will hear you. Do your sisters also play and sing?
One of them does.
Well, why didn't you all learn? You ought all to have learned. Do you draw?
Not at all.
What? None of you?
Not one.
That is very strange. I suppose you had no opportunity. Your mother should have taken you every year in the spring for the benefit of the masters. Has your governess left you?
We never went to town. In fact, we never had any governess.
No governess? How is that possible? 5 daughters brought up at home without a governess. I never heard of such a thing. Your mother must have been quite a slave to your education.
I can assure you, Lady Catherine, she was anything but.
Aye, no doubt. Are any of your other sisters out?
Yes, ma'am, all.
All? What? All 5 at once and the younger out before the elder are married? Very strange. Your younger sister must be very young.
Yes, my youngest is not 16. But really, ma'am, I think it would be quite hard upon the younger sisters not to have their fair share of society because the elder may not have the means or inclination to marry early. Indeed, the youngest born has as good a right to the pleasures of youth as the first. And I think it would not likely promote sisterly affection.
Upon my word, you give your opinion quite decisively. For so young a person, pray, what is your age?
With 3 younger sisters grown up, your ladyship can hardly expect me to own it.
What an impertinent creature you are. Considering your precarious situation, I would have expected an humbler disposition. Not that I approve entailing estates from the female line. For your sake, Miss Collins, I am glad of it, since it was not thought necessary in Sir Louis de Burgh's family. I and my beautiful, albeit sickly daughter are saved such an inconvenience. Then again, Miss Elizabeth, you are a pretty girl. I imagine that will go a long way in positioning you prior to your inevitable displacement.
I will take that as a compliment, Lady Catherine. Lacking in ample dowry, I've been resolved to that inevitability for quite some time.
And so you should be. After all, society has its dictates, does it not?
Nephew of my patroness, Mr. Darcy. He has some urgent matter to discuss with you.
Well, I will not speak to that man, not after what he did to Jane.
Oh, but Lizzie, you must. Mr. Darcy is Lady Catherine's nephew. If you do not, Mr. Collins and I will be disgraced.
For you, then.
Oh, thank you, Lizzie. Oh, come on.
Mr. Darcy?
Miss Elizabeth. In vain have I struggled. It will not do. My feelings will not be repressed. You must allow me to tell you how ardently I admire and love you.
How can you say such a thing?
That is exactly my point, Miss Elizabeth. It is as if I am cursed.
Cursed?
Wretchedly so, against all reason, against my will.
Well,
It is just...
I'm sorry to have occasioned pain to anyone. I've never desired your good opinion, and you've certainly bestowed it most unwillingly. I might as well inquire why, with so evident a design of offending and insulting me, you chose to tell me that you loved me against your will, against your reason, and even against your character? I'm sorry if I'm being uncivil, but I have other provocations, you know I have. Had not my own feelings been decided against you, had they been indifferent or even favourable, do you think that any consideration would tempt me to accept the man who has been the means of ruining, perhaps forever, the happiness of a most beloved sister? Can you deny that you've done it?
Your sister showed no love for my friend. Why, she barely showed any interest in him at all.
By her nature, she's shy, almost to a fault. Just as by your nature, you're so cruelly arrogant.
This is your opinion of me. This is the estimation in which you hold me. Well, I thank you for explaining it so fully. My faults, according to this calculation, are heavy indeed. But perhaps these faults would have been overlooked, and that your pride been hurt by my honest confession of the scruples which had long prevented my forming any serious design. Did you expect me to rejoice in the inferiority of your connections? To congratulate myself on the hope of relations whose position in life was so decidedly beneath my own?
You are mistaken, Mr. Darcy. If you think you could have made the offer of your hand in any possible way that would have tempted me to accept it, what with your cool prejudice for those less fortunate like Mr. Wickham?
Wickham! My God, woman, you take an eager interest in that gentleman's concerns.
Who knows of his misfortunes and men cannot feeling an interest in
His misfortunes. Yes, his misfortunes have been great indeed.
And of your infliction, you have reduced him to his present state of poverty. You've withheld the advantages which you knew inside for him. You've deprived the best years of his life. You've done all this, and yet you can treat the mention of his misfortunes with contempt and ridicule. From the very beginning, from the first moment of my acquaintance with you, your manners, impressing me with the fullest belief of your arrogance, your conceit, and your selfish disdain for the feelings of others, convinced me that you were the last man in the world whom I could ever be prevailed on to marry.
You have said quite enough, madam. I perfectly comprehend your feelings and now have only to be ashamed of what my own have been. Forgive me, having taken up so much of your time, and accept my best wishes for your health and your happiness. Emptiness happiness in knowing I could start my life anew as the one who I would be with you. But there'll be no new life, and there'll be no new start. There will be just the pain of a devastated heart. As I enter a world without you, with the sorrow the years won't undo, watch the twilight fading and the dream that won't come true for the one I could have been, for the one I could have been with you.
Lizzie? Oh, Lizzie, what? He asked me to marry him.
What?
I refused him. What? Oh, your poor mother. Poor mother. Poor Jane. Poor all of us. How dare he tear into my life? How dare he interfere with my quietude, my comfort and call, all the qualities I've counted upon? Who is he to impose on me? This narcissist of high degree, with his vast experience of all the finer points of self-centered love. What would lead him to presume I could be won by one so vain, to assume I would take pleasure in the one who caused such pain? If my choice is to surrender all that matters most to me, then alone I will forever be. How dare he so vexatiously tamper with what was meant to be? What gives him the right to decide who's to be or not to be Bingley's bride? How dare he offer his tainted hand with his effronteries to my family? Why should I be betrothed to the one and only man that I love? When a man is so deluded by his own self-righteousness that he fancies his position puts him high on all the rest, he will one day feel the consequence upon his destiny, and that day is one I long to see. How dare he? Was there something I have missed in this most maddening of men? Why was he the one to offer what may never come again? And why should this cold confessional, expressed so carelessly, somehow stir the very heart of How dare he so disturb my peace? Let the trouble cease. Let him now be gone and take his ruin insults along. Let him not be here. He's not wanted here. Let him disappear. Am I being clear? How dare he?
This just came from Longbourn. What? What is it? Not Jane?
Oh, Mr. Bennett.
No, it is Lydia. It seems she's run away with
my dearest sister, you will laugh when you know where I have gone, and I cannot help laughing myself at your surprise tomorrow morning, as soon as I am missed. I am going to Gretna Green.
If you cannot guess with whom, I shall think you a simpleton. For there is but one man in the world I love, and he is an angel. I shall never be happy without him, so think it no harm to be off. Oh, I can hardly write for laughing. I shall send for my clothes soon, but I wish you would tell our maid to mend a great slit in my muslin gown before they are packed up. Goodbye. Give my love to Mamma and Papa. Your affectionate sister, Lydia.
Thoughtless Lydia! And Wickham, how could he? Oh, what a letter is this to be written in such a moment! Oh, poor father, how he must have felt it!
I never saw anyone so shocked. He could not speak a word for a full 10 minutes. Mother was taken ill immediately, and the whole house in such confusion.
But can Lydia really be so lost to everything but love of him that she would consent to live with him on any other terms than marriage?
Well, she is very young. She has never been taught to think on serious subjects. She's been given up to nothing but amusement and vanity. Ever since the soldiers were quartered at Meryton, nothing but love, flirtation, and offices have filled her head.
And we all know Wickham has every charm that can captivate a woman.
Oh! And now Mr. Bennet has gone away, and I know he will find Wickham wherever he finds him, and he will be killed. And what shall become of us? The Collinses will toss us out before he's cold in his grave. Oh, whatever shall we do?
Elizabeth, Mr. Darcy is here to see you.
That odious man. What could he want? Come along, girls. Oh.
Your cousin Collins said that. Well, I came as soon as I heard.
Yes, well, Mr. Darcy, your prejudice about my family seems to have been validated. My youngest sister has thrown herself into the powers of Mr. Wickham. They have gone off together, she writes, to Gretna Green.
I am grieved, indeed, grieved and shocked. When I consider I might have prevented it.
But how?
I knew what he was. Had I but explained some part of it. My own prejudice against Mr. Wickham, that prejudice for which you have chided me, I could only refute by laying before you the whole of his connection to my family. You see, when Georgiana was but 15, she too fell in love with him, and also consented to an elopement. However, I joined them unexpectedly a day before the intended departure. Georgiana was unable to support the idea of offending a brother who she looked to almost as a father, so she acknowledged the whole to me. You may imagine my reaction. Mr. Wickham was commanded to leave immediately. Regard for my sister's credit and feelings prevented any public exposure, and any word of this to you.
I can understand, and I will honor your candor with my own discretion.
I know you will. As you can imagine, Mr. Wickham's chief object was undoubtedly my sister's fortune, which is £30,000 a year.
£30,000? Lydia has no fortune to speak of. Why, he has no incentive to marry her at all.
That is exactly my fear as well. I was a fool to leave you ignorant of these circumstances. Had his character been known, this could not have happened. But it is all too late now. What efforts have been made to recover her?
My father has joined my Uncle Gardner in London to search for her. Had I but known, how is such a man to be worked on? How are they even to be discovered? It is entirely hopeless. Wretched mistake.
I'm afraid you have been long desiring my absence. Nor have I anything to plead in excuse of my stay, but real, though unavailing concern. I won't torment you any longer. Good day.
What do they want, Lizzie?
Truly, sister, I don't know. He mystifies me.
Lizzie, they all mystify me. Did he mention...
Oh, no, Jane, I'm so sorry. Dear sister, I fear the storm. Read your little book, place your little plate, lie around in bloomers while your curls go straight. Since you won't be needing to ingratiate our husband, and you can
Compose a little pin, pen your little play, composing, decomposing all the livelong day. With the sons and daughters that we're trying our way, our husband.
do not be deluded that to be a bride means to be fulfilled.
They don't tell you that to keep the love alive, something must be killed.
So wake it when you choose,
Retire when you please.
stand to be unladylike when you must sneeze.
Which of you have got one is ill at ease? Our husband.
Manners, please.
If our little lesson is distressing you, do not be morose. You can have your hubby and your freedom too.
Once he's comatose, so mingle with the men.
Instead of mending tops,
Venture an opinion mixed unorthodox.
all the rich by married only cruelly knocks the husband.
And why not take a holiday in the south of France with the possibility of sweet romance, which would be a problem if there were a chance of.
Never ever dare to wrong him to whom you do belong. If you think to be a wife, guarantees the perfect life.
Just you wait, my dear, your prince will soon appear. Your husband.
Mr. and Mrs. Collins are here. Just days since Lydia's disappearance, and they're already here to gloat.
My dear Mrs. Bennet, I feel myself called upon to condole with you in the grievous affliction you're now suffering.
Is that so?
Believe me, Mrs. Collins and I sincerely sympathize with you, with your whole wretched family. You are grievously to be pitied. In which opinion, I am joined not only by Mrs. Collins, but likewise by Lady Catherine and her daughter, to whom I related the affair. They agree with me that this false step in one daughter will be injurious to the fortunes of all the others, for who, as Lady Catherine herself so condescendingly says, would connect themselves with such a family?
Father, thank goodness you have happened to find them.
No, Jane dear, not I. Your Uncle Gardner has seen them both.
Oh, good. So they're married then.
No, he says they are not married, nor can he find there was ever any intention of being so. Further investigation by your uncle has perhaps revealed Wickham's motives for his secrecy. In addition to his fear of discovery by us, he has left very considerable gaming debts behind him, and it appears that more than £1,000 will be necessary to clear his expenses around town, but his debts of honour are even more formidable.
A gamester? This is wholly unexpected. I had no idea.
What? Is Uncle to go home then without poor Lydia? Who is to fight Wickham and make him marry her?
Why, the death of your daughter would be a blessing in comparison of this. But you should be consoled by the fact that her own nature must be naturally bad, or she could not be commit such an enormity at so early an age. It is my duty as a cleric to be calm and not hysteric, to be clear, not esoteric, mid this chaos. And in my infinite capacity to emanate veracity, I pray let not loquacity delay us from determining the source of our unstoppable remorse, brought on by one you knew, of course, would disobey you. It's your fault, not just your luck, when you allow to run amok and let your awful evil offspring thus betray you. When I develop the age, many a sage, mastering how to collect, start flashing her eyes, revealing the rise of anger beneath her skin. When she flashes that wink, or flashes that pink, this question I put to you, do tell me what
off your unworthy child from your affection forever, and leave her to reap the fruits of her own heinous offense.
Mr. Collins, neither your words nor their timing is appropriate.
Papa, this has just been delivered.
It's from Gardner.
Father, please read it.
My dearest brother, at last I am able to send you some better tidings of my niece, and such as, upon the whole, I hope will give you some satisfaction. And Mr. Wickham's circumstances are not so hopeless as they are generally believed to be. The world has been deceived in this respect, and I am happy to report that there will be some little money, even after all his debts are discharged, to settle on my niece, in addition to her own fortune.
So Wickham is not so undeserving then as we have thought him.
And for the marriage to take place, you needed only to assure your daughter of an equal share of the £5,000 due to your children upon the decease of yourself and my sister, as well as £100 per annum. These were conditions which, considering everything, I had no hesitation in complying with, as far as I thought myself privileged. By the time you receive this, Lydia will be married. Therefore, stay quietly at Longbourn and depend on my diligence and care. I dislike it very much, but it must be done.
And the terms, I suppose, must be complied with.
Complied with? I am only ashamed of his asking so little. But there are two things I very much want to know. The first is how much money your uncle laid out to bring it all about. And the other, how am I ever to repay him?
That is true. A small sum could not do all this.
Mr. Bennet, his consenting to marry her is proof, I will believe, of their mutual affection. Why, this is delightful news indeed. Dear Lydia, she will be married at 16. Oh, how I long to see her. And dear Wickham, too. I shall go to Meryton to tell the Lucases the good news. Kitty, run down and hire me a carriage. A marrying will do me a great deal of good. Oh, dear, dear Lydia, how merry we shall be together when we meet. Oh, surprise!
Is it not all so grand? Yes, it has been less than a fortnight, and yet it seems I have been gone for ages. Oh, I dare say so much has happened. And now, Mamma, what do you think of my husband? Oh, is not he a charming man? Oh, I am sure my sisters must all envy me. I only hope they may have half my good luck. Oh, they must all go to Brighton. That is the place to get husbands. And I dare say I shall get husbands for them before the winter is over.
Ah, Mr. Bennet, I am such a flutter at the thought. Do you think it's... Oh, well, never mind.
Follow me, Mr. Wickham. We shall have a chat.
I, for one, Lydia, do not particularly like your way of getting husbands.
Well, it is certainly better than being an old maid. Oh, by the way, Jane,
I take your place now at the table, and you must go lower, because I am a married woman.
Oh, Lydia, tell us about the wedding.
We were married at St. Clement's when the appointed time was 11 o'clock. My uncle and aunt and I were to go together, and the others were to meet us at the church. Well, Monday morning came, and I was terrified that something would happen to put it off. Oh, and there was my aunt all the time I was dressing, preaching and talking away as if reading a sermon. However, I did not hear one word, for I was thinking of my dear Wickham. Then, just as the carriage came to the door, my uncle was called away upon business with some horrid man my dear Wickham has been avoiding. I feared that the meeting were to go beyond the hour we could not be married that day. But luckily they came back in 10 minutes' time and we all set out. However, I realized later that even if my uncle had not returned, Mr. Darcy could have served.
Mr. Darcy?
Oh, yes. He was to come now with Wickham, you know. Oh, gracious me, I quite forgot. I ought not to have said a word about it. It was supposed to be a secret. Oh, Mamma, do the people care about
intrude. I was hoping to see Jane.
Jane! Jane! Make haste, Jane! Make haste!
What is the matter, Mama? Why do you keep winking at me? What am I to do?
Nothing, Joe. Oh, nothing. I am not winking at you. It's just that I want to talk to you in the hall. Lizzie! I want to talk to you too. No!
My dear, sweet Jane, men can be such obstinate creatures. How did I ever allow myself to stray so far from my heart's desire? I was a fool to even think I could live without you.
Mr. Bingley, all this time I've assumed.
You should assume nothing, except my own stupidity. My dearest, my love, will you marry me?
Yes! Yes!
She said yes. She said yes.
I said alone.
Oh, of course, Lady Catherine.
You can be at no loss. The reason for my visit here. You, your heart, your conscience must know the reason why I've come.
Indeed, ma'am, you are mistaken.
Miss Bennet, you know you must not trifle with me. However insincere you may choose to be, you will not find me so. My character is celebrated for its sincerity and its frankness. That said, a report has just come to me that you, Miss Elizabeth Bennet, will soon marry my nephew, Mr. Darcy, and though I know this to be a falsehood, your own arts, your allurements may, in a moment of infatuation, have made him forget what he owes to himself and to all his family, and though I would not injure him by supposing it possible, I instantly resolved to make my sentiments known to you.
If your ladyship believed it impossible, I wonder why you took the trouble of coming so far.
To insist on this report being universally contradicted.
Your coming to Longbourn to see me can be rather a confirmation of it, if indeed such a report exists.
If, then do you pretend to be ignorant of it? Do you not know that such a report is spread abroad?
I never heard that it was.
Then can you declare that there's no foundation for it?
I do not pretend to possess equal frankness with your ladyship. You may ask me questions which I may refuse to answer.
Obstinate, headstrong girl. Tell me once and for all, are you engaged to him?
I'm not.
Then can you promise me never to enter into such an engagement?
I can make no such promise.
You unfeeling, selfish girl. This is not to be borne, Miss Bennet. Let me be rightly understood. This match, to which you have the presumption to aspire, can never take place. No, never.
Mr. Darcy, I am a selfish creature indeed. For the sake of giving relief to my own feelings, I cannot how much I may be wounding yours. For I am most anxious to acknowledge your kindness to my poor sister.
Ah, so Lydia mentioned it.
She did, and I've intuited the rest. Let me thank you in the name of all my family for that generous compassion which induced you to take on so much trouble and bear so many mortifications for her sake.
What I do now, I do for you, and you only. You taught me a lesson. Hard, indeed, at first, but you showed me how insufficient were all my pretensions to please a woman worthy of being pleased. If you will thank me, let it be for yourself alone.
My manners must have been in fault, but never intentionally, I assure you. I never meant to deceive you. Oh, you must have hated me.
Hated you? I was angry, perhaps, at first, but that anger soon gave way to understanding that you are the one and only woman in the world who could own my heart. My object, then, was to obtain your forgiveness. To show you that I am nothing without you, that I am everything with you. Dearest, loveliest Elizabeth, if your feelings are still what they were when last we met, tell me so at once. My affections are unchanged, but one word from you will silence me on the subject forever. Your permission to marry your daughter Elizabeth.
A moment, sir. Lizzie, what are you doing? Are you out of your senses to be accepting this man? Have you not always hated him?
Oh, he's not the man I thought he was. He is so much more, and soon you will see it too. I do like him, Father. I love him.
dear, if this be so, then he deserves you. I could not have parted with you, my Lizzie, for anyone less worthy.